Well, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Well, it has been an exciting, an eventful week, but we made it. We're here. Welcome to Happy Hour. Happy Hour is a stream that I do primarily on my second channel, youtube.com/actively unwoke on Fridays at 5 p.m., where we watch a woke video from start to finish. We let them say what they want to say. We commentate on it. We mock it when they occasionally make a good point, we acknowledge that as well because we are fair-minded people. And we have some drinks and we start off our weekend right by watching mind-numbing content. It's a little masochistic, as it were, or sadistic. I think it's masochistic, like when you want to inflict pain on yourselves. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But that's what we're doing today for happy hour. I've got some great beers that I'm going to be showing you guys in a second. But first, let me show you the training that I found for today. I really think this is going to be a good one, guys. I do. Now, in keeping with the theme that we've been on with the schools and exposing what's going on in the schools, I found this here training on the DC Public Schools website, and it is called Families Who Want to Be Allies, Talking to Your Children About Race. Now, sometimes when we get videos that are obviously critical race theory, you might find that they've been posted like several years ago because a lot of woke people have kind of moved on from CRT because it's got such a bad rap now that it's getting harder for them. But no, this video was posted in February of this year. It's like 6 months old. And so this is in the land of schools. This is relatively recent. It was just taught. Let me show you the description. And of course, I also picked this out because Washington, D.C., the mayor of Washington, D.C., has now said that unvaccinated children are not allowed to attend school and there will be no virtual learning. And do you guys know? Does anyone want to take a guess about which population in the Washington, D.C. area is going to be disproportionately adversely affected by the fact that the mayor will not allow them to attend school? Does anyone want to give it a guess in the chat? You guys can guess, and I'm going to read the description. This session is for families who are ready to begin their journey as allies for the Black community and to raise anti-racist children. Speaking of being good allies to the Black community, Muriel Bowser, this workshop will help you to begin to have a dialogue with your children about race-related topics that is age appropriate. Check this out. You guys are going to love this. The content of this session focuses on the experience of white families with very young children from infancy through age 5. The Washington, D.C. Public Schools, on their YouTube channel right now, that we are going to watch today, has a presentation about how parents can talk to infants to 5-year-olds about racism in 2022. You can't make this stuff up. You can't. Tracy Baxley, who I'm sure is going to be a liberal white lady, is actually not. Is she a liberal white lady? No, she looks black. Okay, I'm wrong. Most of the time they're liberal white ladies. Sometimes they're not. Tracy is a mother of 5, an educator, a cultural coach for parents. People complain that I'm a grifter. You want to tell me that a cultural coach for parents who is teaching parents how to talk to 5-year-olds about racism is not a grifter? Please. A diversity, inclusion, and equity consultant and the author of a new book, Social Justice Parenting: How to Raise Compassionate, Anti-Racist, Justice-Minded Kids in an Unjust World. She has been featured on PBS Kids for Parents and Sesame Street in communities. And we can learn more at socialjusticeparenting.com. I'm just gonna let me just pull this link up real quick. Oh, you're gonna see my bookmarks again. Sorry, Horde. My bookmarks don't mean anything. I don't even use them. I know you guys are obsessed with them, but like I don't even use them. So like whatever. Okay, so this is the woman that we're gonna be watching today. The author of Social Justice Parenting. Services. Okay, so she offers. Oh, look. Rocks. Reflection, open dialogue, compassion, kindness, and social engagement. She's got a framework for parenting. She's done a TED Talk. She's been on Sesame Street. Nothing could go wrong with the presentation that we are going to watch today. I'm looking forward to it. I have put your bingo card link in the chat. Make sure you download your Unwoke bingo card. I'll pop it into the chat again just in case. And because it might be a good bingo day. Listen, guys, the other day on my other channel, we watched a woke video from the Portland Public Schools in Oregon, and we got, for the first time ever, multiple blackout bingos. I was so excited. Multiple blackout bingos. But they weren't an official happy hour bingo. That was more of like an unofficial happy hour. So it wasn't an official happy hour blackout. So we're still waiting for that official happy hour blackout. I'm really glad, though, that people got blackout bingo, because it shows that I did actually select the right words for blackout bingo. And it's one of those things where we need to keep it a little out of reach. Oh, Reagan, thank you for the reminder. Yes, everyone on bingo today gets a free square in celebration of the fact that we have achieved blackout bingo status. So make sure you generate your bingo card. All bingo cards are unique. You get a free square in the corner, and then we're going to lines, or we're going for corners. If you get one of those two things, you shout out bingo in the chat. You don't win anything, but you will get a round of applause, our congratulations. And once we have the first bingo, then we go for that elusive blackout bingo. And because this is a presentation about race and kids, might be a good day to get it. I'm just saying. Well, guys, I do have a couple of announcements before we get into the presentation today. Now, of course, you can always support the work I'm doing by heading over to activelyunwoke.com/support and signing up to support me there. Hang on a second. I'm just fixing something that I should have fixed before I started. There are a lot of different ways that you can support my channel, to include signing up on Patreon, and you can do monthly gifts ranging from $5 all the way up to $250. You get different perks for each gift. It just depends on how much you want to give and what types of perks you want. You can also join my Locals community. Locals, of course, is my original community. Nothing has changed about Locals just because I've added my Patreon. We do community Zoom calls twice a week. The folks on Patreon will also get access to the community Zoom calls if you would like to attend them, because I do want to make one big community, and some people prefer Patreon and some people prefer Locals, and it's just the way it goes. You can also support my work by subscribing with a paid subscription on my Substacks, whether that's the Actively Unwoke Substack or the Red Pill Diary Substack. All of your support does make it possible to do the work I'm doing, and I really, really do appreciate it. But I have an even better way right now. If you have to choose one, if you just have to choose one way to support what I'm doing, right now, what I would really love you to do is support the campaign that I just launched yesterday. First launched on Kickstarter after it got approved 2 days ago. And then within hours of me launching the campaign on Kickstarter, Kickstarter canceled it. I had already raised over $2,000. Kickstarter had canceled it. And so I had to rush and get it set up on Indiegogo. Okay, I was already halfway set up on Indiegogo. It wasn't like a mad rush. I already had most of it set up. I just needed to fix a few things because I knew Kickstarter was going to cancel this campaign. I knew it. I planned it this way. I wanted it this way. People are asking, why did you go to Kickstarter? A, I'm not a coward. B, cancellation isn't always bad. You get to prove a point with it. Because if Kickstarter is afraid of parents looking at school websites, well, that tells me we are right on track with where we need to be. Because that's all this is, guys. I want to build a training program. Oh, Jay's back. Jay's back. Hi, Jay. Hi, Jay. Are you stalking me? Because you were on my other channel yesterday telling people, Jay was here telling people, Karlyn is dangerous. Don't trust Karlyn. She's going to let you down. She's dangerous. And then we would say, Jay, what did I ever do that was dangerous? And how did I let you down? And he would just go, Karlyn is dangerous. People on Twitter say Karlyn is dangerous. Jay, you keep it up today, you're going to get blocked. I no longer have I mean, it is kind of fun to use you as an example, Jay. I will give you that. It's fun to use you as an example, but like we actually have important business to do here. The important business that I'm trying to do is train 10,000 parents to how to find out what their kids are learning in school just by looking at school websites. Because if there's one thing that we've learned over the past several months, it's that the schools are putting all this information on their websites. They're just putting a whole bunch of it on their websites. And so it's making it hard for parents to find it. But I think that we've been able to crack the code. And I want to teach 10,000 parents what we know. And I want to teach them how to do what we do. Because the more we are able to arm people with information, the better we are going to be. Is this another? Is this? Are you being serious? Do I have a whole horde of people in here today that are going to be like, Karlyn is not trustworthy? We can't stand to have her campaign be successful. Please don't help Karlyn train 10,000 parents. Don't do it. Don't do it. You guys can tell Deb Philman that if she was really a libertarian, then Deb would present her own option for a training program to train 10,000 parents, and she would allow the free market to decide. She would let the free market do its job. She would allow people to look at the options that they have available to them and say, I want Karlyn's program, or I want Deb's program, or I want no program at all. So I don't know if you're a troll or if you're real, because I don't recognize you. Sin claims you're on Joshua's channel, which makes me think you're one of Mikey's, to be honest. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know. If I'm wrong about you, I apologize. I am dangerous. So dangerous. You gave a $10 super chat. Thank you, Kay. Thank you. Yes, I am very bad. I am very dangerous. Ask whatever question you like, Jay. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on you because we have other stuff we need to do here, dude. You're going to get one question, and then we're going to move on, and you're going to get your ass blocked because we actually have work that we want to do. God. Do I condemn or condone the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire posting on social media a picture of a daughter Okay, let's talk about what they actually posted. They posted a picture of Meghan McCain crying over the casket of John McCain. And they posted it with the caption, Happy Holidays. Now, first off, to dispel any rumors, I was not involved in this tweet at all. I didn't even find out about this tweet until several hours after it was sent. So before you guys get any ideas about blaming me for this shit, I was not involved in this tweet at all. However, I thought it was fucking fantastic. I think it's great. I think it makes exactly the point that that the person who sent it, who was not me, wanted to make about John McCain being a warmongering asshole that should not be mourned at all. He is a war criminal. And I don't feel sorry for him. And I don't feel sorry for Meghan McCain, because Meghan McCain used her father's gravestone in order to market her book. Don't tell me that Meghan McCain is not worthy of mockery. That tweet did exactly what it was supposed to do. It pissed people off. It was an epic fucking troll. And no, I do not condemn it in any way. In any way. I think it's fucking great. This tweet pissed Meghan McCain off so badly, she retweeted it 6 times. I am proud to be a member of the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire. I am proud to be a member of the most based Libertarian Party ever in the country. And we do not apologize. We do not bend the knee to outrage junkies like you. And if people were actually smart, they would know that the person who actually sent the tweet has sent that same tweet every single year on that anniversary. And it weren't me. Sorry, guys. Sorry to disappoint you. The anti-war stuff isn't my shtick. The schools are my shtick. So let's talk about the schools. Let's talk about the schools, because this is actually what I care about. Lots of other people care about the anti-war stuff, and I'm anti-war. Don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely anti-war. I've been protesting like wars since college, so I'm on the same page with them. But my issue is the schools. I want to show parents what's going on in the schools, and in order to do that, we do things like happy hour where we watch these woke trainings. But what I want to do really is train 10,000 parents how to do these things themselves so they don't have to come through people like us. And the way I'm doing that is I'm crowdfunding, because I need to pay for technology that's going to scale to accommodate 10,000 people. I also need to pay for my time and the time that it's going to take me to develop an online training program to be able to teach parents how to do everything that I and we know how to do. And I'm doing that on Indiegogo. And I feel pretty safe that I'm not gonna get canceled on Indiegogo now, so I'm gonna, like, start really pushing it. Guys, if you have not yet first of all, I do wanna thank the 37 people who have already donated to this campaign in less than 24 hours since I launched it on Indiegogo. We are already over 1/3 of the way to the goal that I've set to make this training program a reality. So I'm feeling really, really good. I would love to get up to that halfway point within the first week of the campaign. I think that that would be really great. It will allow me to feel comfortable that it's going to get funded, because I'm gonna tell you, I actually wasn't sure how this was going to go. I was pretty sure this was a good idea. I was pretty sure that parents would be excited about it. But I really wasn't sure how the crowdfunding was going to go. But now that I've seen the response, we're already over 1/3 within 24 hours. I feel really comfortable that this is going to happen. And I know that all of you are going to help me make it happen, because educating parents on how to find this information on their own is, I think, one of the most important things that we can do in order to make real strides in exposing what the progressive ideology is doing in schools. Thank you, King Peter of the chat. King Peter of the chat. Peter, I'm going to bestow on you. Peter gets a wrench as a prize for being the king of the chat. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. So, guys, if you want to support this campaign, there are all sorts of perks you can take advantage of. The link is pinned to the top of the chat or in the description. And what I really want to draw your attention to is when you get to the $50 level, that's where you get first access to the Schools Exposed program when it's going to launch in January. Okay. That's going to be the cheapest way that you're going to get involved in it. The way I'm going to continue to scale this program is that after I develop the content and launch it, there's going to be a $99 one-time fee, and that's going to include lifetime access to the program. Well, no, the Project Veritas, nah. I won't poo-poo Project Veritas. They're doing a good job, but they've been doing this stuff for a while. Anyway, go for the $50 level, because the $50 level is that is going to be the cheapest that you are ever going to get into this program. So that would be what I would go for. And there are only 50 spots for that, and 7 of them have already been claimed. Now, I will also say this: some people donated $50, but they didn't claim the specific perk. If you donated $50, go in and make sure you're up for that perk, so you do get access to the program. And I'll reach out to the people who haven't selected it just to be sure, but I want to make sure that everyone actually gets access to it. Once those 50 slots are filled up, then the price is going to go up to 75, and that's going to be for the next 100 people. And then after that, we've up to 90. And so it's still going to be cheaper than what it's going to be when it's launched, but it just gets a little bit more expensive every time. You also have options. Also, at the $90 level for right now, you have an option to donate $90, and you'll get both a membership for yourself, or you'll get you will get excuse me, I'm gonna say this again. At the $90 level for Access for You plus scholarship, not only will you get a membership for yourself, but you will also create a scholarship that I can use to give to someone who can't afford to become a part of the program without that support. And so I'm really excited. And this was actually something the audience wanted me to do yesterday when I launched it. They said, how can we support other people getting into this program? How can we create a scholarship? And so there were several people that actually bought memberships specifically for scholarships for other people. And I think that's so wonderful. So yeah, now we have an official scholarship option. Once you get up into the $100 range, you can get a signed copy of my book. You can get private training. Excuse me. You can get private training. You can get me to look into your school for you. And at the $1,000 level, I will knit you a shawl. I will hand knit you a customized shawl at the $1,000 level. I will buy the yarn. I will work with you to make sure you love it. We will pick out the pattern together, and then I will knit it. It's going to take a while to knit all those shawls, but I'm going to do my best. There may be perks coming up later where people can actually buy shawls I've already made. We're going to have to see, or that other people have already made as well. But for right now, the only knitting option is the $1,000 level for the completely customized hand knit shawl that I will make for you as my thank you for supporting my program. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can head over to the website. And again, the link is pinned to the top of the chat or in the description below. Watch that video. It's going to it's gonna show you exactly what the program is and what it's all about. And I really, again, guys, I appreciate the support so much. I'm so excited about the response for this. I am really thrilled with how excited people are for this, and I think it's going to be just great. Peter says, has the Veritas stuff come out yet? It should actually be supportive of your work, Karlyn. Many will be influenced by whistleblower interviews than by documents and training videos. I don't have any problem with Project Veritas. Just to be really clear, I don't have any problem with what they're doing. I think so. They exposed that Gabriel Geip asshole in like near Sacramento, that Antifa guy that was like teaching Antifa in his classes. So I have no problem with Project Veritas at all. Like I said, I don't actually think that this is not a competition. I really mean it when I say that. This is not a competition. So it's not a competition between me and Project Veritas. It's not a competition between me and Deb Philman, as much as Deb wants to try to make it to be a competition. It's not a competition. We need as many part of the reason I want to train 10,000 parents is we need as many people doing this as possible. And whether that's someone I like or whether it's someone I don't like, I actually don't really care. If they are exposing what is going on in the schools and they're making headway and they're convincing people to take a second look at what's happening, then fine. So I have no issue with Project Veritas. I'm sure they'll do a great job. I sometimes find Project Veritas to be a little inflammatory, if I'm honest. Sometimes they like to blow things up sometimes out of proportion for what I think they are. But I do think in regards to the stuff that I've seen around the schools, I think that they've actually done a pretty fair job. All right, guys, so that's our Kickstarter. Please support me at, you can go to unwokearmy.com/ is it parents or parent? Hang on. I need to change my ticker. I think I put it wrong in there. I'm pretty sure it's parents. Hang on. I want to make sure I have the right URL. Pretty sure it's parents. Let me double check real quick, make sure. Oh my goodness. It's going to be one of those days, is it? It's going to be one of those days. Unwokearmy.com/parents. Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. All right, guys. Now, our last order of business before we get into our presentation. Now that we've dispensed of the trolls, we need to pick out a beer for me. And as always, you guys get to vote on the beer. Let me show you what I have today. Sorry, I was looking at a text from Victor. One sec. I've got some good stuff today. I'm really excited about this. Let me see. Yeah, Peter, like I said, I have no problem with Project Veritas. I think that Project Veritas is doing a great job. And I mean, Peter, you're making a really good point too, and this is another point I would make. It's like well, let me take me and Deb Philman, because I actually legitimately don't have a problem with Project Veritas. I think they're fine. Deb Philman, I think, is an evil bitch. I think she's an evil bitch that's out for herself, that is a shill, that only cares about making money. And I don't actually think she cares about any of this stuff in any real way. But what if Deb Philman put together a program that was similar to mine that reached a different type of parent? That's fine. You want to know why? Because I am going to reach a very different audience than the negative Nancy's that Deb Philman is going to attract to her audience. And negative Nancy's still need people to help them out too. We're going to reach two different audiences, and Project Veritas is going to reach another audience, and every other person doing this work is going to reach another audience. And so, yeah, Peter, I know you're trolling, and I'm gonna put that up in a sec, but I do actually legitimately want to make this point to people. When you care about a goal, you don't abandon your commitment to that goal because you don't like people. If Deb Philman wants to show people what's going on in the schools, then I hope that she's highly successful at what she does. I just think she's a terrible person. I think she's a psychotic cunt. Peter also says, I'm just trolling by intentionally calling me a journalist. I'm not a journalist. I am not a journalist. I perform acts of journalism on occasion. All right, let me show you what I have. Okay, so the first one we have I had to get it. Look at that can. Look at that can. Do you know what this is called? It's called Liquid Lollipop. Liquid Lollipop. Let me, I'm putting together a poll so you guys can vote on what beer I drank. Which beer should I start with? And our first option is the Lollipop beer. Look at that can again. It's bright, it's neon, it's got a lollipop on it. And this is a sour ale with fruit and natural flavors, and it is raspberry, banana, and marshmallow. So that is our first beer. Our second beer, and these are kind of summer beers. The first two are kind of summer beers. This is called Summer Treat. And this is a orange creamsicle sour with vanilla and lactose. So orange creamsicle. I don't know how to spell creamsicle. That's going to be close enough. You guys are going to know what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that's close enough. All right, so orange creamsicle is our second option. And then we're going to get into some fall stuff. We're going to get into some fall. I was really excited to see this. Cider donut, hard cider. And I like the nuts, not only because they're good, the can has such a nice texture on it. I can't describe it. It's just very nice and it's textury. And so it's called cider donut, hard cider. So cider donut. And then our last one is pumpkin pie scraper. I love pumpkin beers, but not all pumpkin beers are good and not all pumpkin beers are created equal. But when they're good, they're really good. This is a pumpkin ale with vanilla spices, maple syrup, and lactose. So our last beer is going to be called pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie. All right, guys, I'm putting a poll in the chat on YouTube, and you guys get to vote. Again, we have Liquid Lollipop, which is a sour ale with banana, raspberry, and marshmallow. We have an orange creamsicle beer. We have our cider donut cider. Or we have pumpkin pie beer. 2 summer beers and 2 more fall beers. Let me know in the chat which one you would like me to start with as my first beer today. And we'll get that poured, and then we'll get this party started. Peter, I'm very excited about that apple cider donut cider. I hope. Listen, I don't want to sway the chat. I'm very excited about all 4 of these beers. I think all 4 of them sound pretty great. That's why I bought them. But we're gonna go ahead and cut off voting. Let me see. I'm gonna give you about 30 more seconds for voting, guys. Please mount that like button if you have not mounted it already. Where do I buy my beers? So there is actually a specialty beer store, like a really big like craft beer supermarket that just opened about 2 miles away from my house. Like 6 months ago or so, maybe a little bit longer. But I go to the specialty craft beer store that's a couple miles from my house. You got to go to craft beer stores. Let me tell you, if you think you don't like beer, go to a craft beer store. Try a bunch of beer. Don't try IPAs. IPAs are going to make you hate beer even more. But there's so many good beers out there. You can find beer that almost yes. You found Left Hand Peanut Butter Stout? Yeah, Left Hand is available all over the place. That's amazing, Alexandra. Waiting for fall to make maple stout bread. Oh, that sounds really good. All right, let's see, guys. Closing the poll in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we are starting with, I think it's orange creamsicle. Orange creamsicle! I'm surprised you guys picked that one, if I'm honest about it. I'm surprised. All right, so I'm going to put the rest in my cooler. Yes, I do actually have a cooler. It's hot as hell in my office. I don't want warm beer. All right, let's pour this orange creamsicle. Let's see. Oh, God, I can smell the orange from here. Oh, my gosh. This is a very orangey beer. I'll tell you that right now. I can smell the orange and I can smell the sour. Oh, this looks like a mimosa. I shouldn't be splashing like that. How pretty. Oh God, it's gonna spill. Look at that head. This is the head. I got 4 fingers ahead. This is where all the aroma is. This smells like a mimosa. We're gonna see. I'm gonna let that settle for a second. And guys, we're gonna get ready for our presentation. So I'm excited about all of them. So I'm not mad about which one you guys picked. Looks like a bladder infection. What are you talking about, Phil? I thought we were friends. All right, let me get this up, guys. Who is ready to start our happy hour for today? I love it. We've dispensed of the trolls already. We've got our bingo cards. We're ready to go. Let me just tune in real quick on Odyssey. Oh God, Odyssey is way delayed, isn't it? Holy shit. Odyssey, I'm streaming on Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble. I'm streaming on Gitter. I'm on Facebook on 2 different places. I'm streaming everywhere now. All right, let me take a sip. Then we'll get started. Does everyone have their bingo card? All I got was foam in that sip. I don't know what it tastes like yet. I don't know what it tastes like yet. All right, here is, if you need your bingo card, mount that like button, guys. Let's get this party started.
Great. All right, greetings everyone, and welcome to tonight's session of Ready for Pre-K. Our session this evening is for families who want to be allies, talking to young children about race. My name is Drew, and I work in the Early Childhood Division here at DCPS. I'm also a proud DCPS Pre-K parent.
The Early Childhood Division.
All right, so before we get started this evening, there are a few housekeeping items that I wanted to go over with the group. Throughout the session, we invite you to enter your questions and comments into the chat. Please note that these will only be seen by the host and moderators.
How's the volume, guys?
Entire group. We have Courtney
I'm gonna turn up a little
bit,
bit,
who are our chat moderators this evening, and they'll be pulling questions to raise up to Dr. Baxley throughout the presentation, and then also during the Q&A portion at the end. We will keep all of those questions and comments anonymous, so we encourage you to be vulnerable with that. This session is recorded and will be posted on the DCPS YouTube page. So for that reason, we have disabled the microphone and camera features for our guests. And then some community agreements for us. We like to start off all of our Ready for Pre-K session with some general community agreements for our time together. We are really committed to making sure that this forum is a place where everyone feels safe, welcome, and respected. We want to acknowledge that families are complex and have different experiences and are in different places on their journey to becoming allies. So we ask that everyone extend some kindness, patience, and show up with open hearts and open minds this evening. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Courtney, from the equity team to get us started this evening. Thanks, Courtney.
Hello, everyone. So here is our DCPS Becoming Purpose Statement. DCPS is the fastest improving district in the country, yet still has significant disparities for students of color, special education students.
They're about to have more disparities for students of color now, aren't they? Now that they are banning 46% of all students of color in the district from attending school at all. How in the holy hell is Washington, D.C. going to explain their support of systemic racism by denying schooling to Black children? How in the hell?
And English language learners. And we know those disparities are not the result of inherent deficits in students. So we must transform our system and practices to support students.
Yes, let Black kids go to school
so they can reach their full potential. That's our becoming statement. So thank you all for showing up. And
you know what we should do from the Actively Unwoke account on Twitter? We should because of course I don't run that account. That account is run by a team of volunteers in the Unwoke Army. I'm permanently banned on Twitter, so I do not run that account at all. But you know what we should do with that account, just to have it be useful? What if we did a campaign from that account where we said, where we demanded that the mayor of Washington D.C. allow every Black child to go to school? Can we do that? Can we do like all black children have a right to an education, Muriel? We demand that the Washington, D.C. public schools allow all black children to go to school as they were intended to. Otherwise, the Washington, D.C. school system is racist. We should totally do a whole campaign about that. That would be funny as shit. Also true, by the way, I do actually want all black children to go to school, so it's not like, I'm not making it up or anything. But, that'd be pretty great.
To engage in this conversation and do this work, DC Public Schools is committed to becoming a whole child anti-racist school district. And that's what this becoming purpose statement is about. This work takes all of us, and we know that families are children's first and most important teachers. We believe that conversations about race should be happening at home for all children long before they begin school. We believe that conversations about race should start early, happen often, recognize and celebrate differences, build a positive sense of self and identity, and normalize conversations about race from an early age. Sometimes those conversations can be challenging, so we want you to know that you are not alone. Our teams are so happy.
Guys, get ready for to have a challenging conversation today.
With these conversations, starting with today's session.
Please feel free to chat in if you are feeling challenged or uncomfortable, and we'll form a support group for you.
Evening. She is a mother and an educator, a belonging advocate, and she is the author of the amazing book, Social Justice Parenting: How to Raise Compassionate, Anti-Racist, Justice-Minded Kids in an Unjust World. And if you don't already, you should follow her on social media. I'm a parent as well and have been following her for a while. And I'm so happy to get to welcome her today. So Dr. Baxley, welcome. And thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Courtney.
Oh, I need to
everybody. I'm excited
turn on captions. Sorry, Spirit Matter.
Your anti-racist journey as a district. It's so important for families and for children. So I guess without further ado, are we ready for me to share my slides?
Yes.
Yeah,
All right,
go for it.
Let's do it. I'm going to share my screen now.
I have a feeling I'm going to be making clips during this presentation. I'm just saying.
Okay. I'm hoping you guys are able to see my slides at this point.
Yeah, looks good.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you for showing up. I know how busy we all are, right? As parents with little ones, with big ones, with jobs. It's very, I understand how hard it is to get here, and I'm really appreciative and very grateful that you decided to spend an hour of your time here with us today. Drew went over already kind of some basic guidelines, and I just want to kind of reiterate that in this space, there's no shaming, there's no guilting, there's no judgment. We're all here to learn, and we're all here to support each other on our journey to really making the world a better place for all of our kids. So just a quick overview of what we have and what we're going to be getting to in the next 45 minutes is we're going to talk a little bit about fear-based parenting, what it is and how we kind of get unstuck from that. We're going to lean into this idea of privilege and kind of demystify it and taking some of the, I would say, negative views around privilege. And then we'll go into a small section on research.
Oh, good. Oh, there's going to be so many clips in that session,
There's things already out there on preschoolers, but I really want to kind of focus a little bit on those that are a little bit younger than preschoolers. Obviously,
Yes.
What we talked about today.
Please, let's do that.
Preschoolers, but
please, let's do that.
We're going to look at the toddler age and then what you can do, some practical things that you can walk away with and hopefully put into practice when you get off of this Zoom call.
Guys, if you're drinking something interesting, please chat in and let us know what you're drinking.
Right, so
this orange creamsicle beer is all right. Doesn't really taste like a creamsicle, but it's good.
Address racial issues with our children, we really have to begin by engaging in self-reflection. And sometimes when we're looking at where we've been,
True.
who we are, and the ways
Toddlers
that we
are
think,
racist.
and the ways that we really want to protect our children, it really starts with us addressing our fears. And one of the biggest obstacles really to doing ally work or anti-racist work is really working through fears. And fear really can come in different ways, right? Sometimes people feel like talking about race with kids, it's taking their innocence or stripping them of their innocence.
Oh, people are drinking so many
There's
cool
a
things.
fear around change just in general. There's a fear around maybe causing some uneasiness within our families or our inner circles. There may be fears around, getting
Okay,
it wrong, right? Saying
hang
the
on.
wrong thing to our kids.
They say this in every single conversation. They're like, the reason that white people don't talk about race is that it makes them feel very uncomfortable. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you feel at all uncomfortable talking about race? I mean, I know not everyone watching today is white, but if you are white, do you actually feel uncomfortable talking about race? Because I don't feel uncomfortable talking about race. I talk about race literally every single day of my life. I might be annoyed that I have to talk about race because I thought that we got rid of this shit in the 90s. But if I'm talking about, like, you know how I talk about race? I don't treat people differently based on the color of their skin. I treat everyone as an individual and, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Well, Melissa's making a great point. I feel uncomfortable for being falsely accused of racism. Yes, exactly. But they use this as a talking point every single effing time. And there's no basis for it at all. There is no has anyone in the 2 years that we've been doing happy hour, almost 2.5 years now, has anyone ever presented a single study that says that people feel uncomfortable talking about race? They never present any single study. This all comes from white effing fragility, which all came from Robin DiAngelo's head.
Kids or offending people that we're trying to be allies with. There's a fear of not knowing enough. There's a fear of backlash. And we really need to work out, how do we get past that fear in order to be able to start taking action? And so sometimes that fear can really get in the way of us doing what's really best for our kids, even though sometimes we don't recognize it. It really keeps us from taking risks and to really kind of thinking out of the box when it comes to raising our children. And fear can also keep us sometimes on the sidelines, right? It keeps us from growing. And change is hard, but change is needed in order for us to
You want me
grow.
to turn up her volume?
So what
I can
does
do that.
fear look like? One way that we can think about fear, and I'm
Is that
talking
better?
specifically for white parents right now. Sometimes that fear is really about how we keep our kids in these protective bubbles. I don't know, have you ever said or heard somebody say, I just want to protect them from I just want to protect their innocence, or I just want to keep them in this bubble for as long as I can. I don't know if you've thought about how long that bubble should last, or at what age is it safe for you to then start having these conversations. But I can tell you this, as a Black mom, I don't really get to have that choice.
Let me know if you need me to make her louder, guys.
The
I can.
bubble is not true for me. And it's not true
I turned
for
her
a
up a
lot of
little bit.
people. It's a false protection that really may end up hurting more than it's helping. So I want us to start rethinking about how we are protecting our kids, and let's think more about less protecting and more preparing them. Sometimes your fears can show up as silence, right?
Louder.
We
Okay.
don't want to talk about race or other hard topics with our kids. So sometimes we ignore it, or we just omit this idea of race-based
Is that better?
conversations
Let me
with
know.
our kids or with our families in general. It's easier just to not talk about it. But if you really are serious about raising anti-racist children, you can't choose silence, right? That silence in itself really sends a very loud message to our kids. And I don't think it's a message that you're trying to send or trying to teach. And I know if you're here tonight, it's something that you're not trying to teach your kids, right? So we want to really think about.
So I want to point this out because it's relevant to the presentation. Steven says the first time I heard white privilege was during the 2008 election. White privilege comes from an essay called Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. It was written by Peggy McIntosh in 1989. So it was around for about 20 years. before the election of Barack Obama. So it was around. Peggy McIntosh is a bougie liberal white lady that was working at Wellesley College. I think still is working at Wellesley College, which for those of you who don't know, Wellesley College is one of the most bougie like women's colleges in the country. It's where Hillary Clinton went. The movie Mona Lisa Smile is about the Wellesley girls. And now they have trans men there, of course, because they're inclusive. But it was the whole white privilege essay was written by a bougie liberal white feminist at Wellesley College in 1989.
How we can start having the conversation so our children will know how important it is for us to have support people who look different from us, or to create a world where everybody feels like they belong and they feel safe. And having conversations around it really is the first entry point to really doing
Oh, Mika went to Wellesley? I didn't know
Sometimes our
that.
fears may be disguised.
Yes, Wellesley is
in
still
the
women only
term,
except for
the
trans
colorblind
men,
term, we
apparently.
don't see color. I think in the last 2 years, we're starting to unpack that a little bit and get around that more. But if we're being honest, we know our kids.
One of the ironies of Wellesley College, and I really wonder what's going to happen with this. So I've run the Boston Marathon twice. I ran it in 2014 and 2015. I will probably never run it again because my marathoning days are over. I can't run anymore. Well, I could run, I guess. I need to go back to the effing gym. Maybe that's what I'll do tomorrow. Anyway, so I ran the Boston Marathon twice. But the reason I bring this up is the Boston Marathon runs right by Wellesley College at about the halfway point, and you go through what's called the Scream Tunnel, and it's just lines and lines and lines of Wellesley girls, and they're all trying to kiss marathon runners. And I don't know what's going on with I kind of wonder what's going on with this now, because again, like the last time I ran the Boston Marathon was in 2015, so it was a long time ago. And so this long line of college girls, they would scream when you ran by them, and so it would sound like a scream tunnel. But then they also try to kiss the marathon runners, the men mostly, as they're like running by. So I wonder if the Wellesley girls are still trying to make out with the marathon runners during the marathon. Would that be considered sexual harassment now? Oh, Mika went to Williams. Williams is also bougie, but not Williams is co-ed. Williams is on the other side of Massachusetts.
See color, right? They show us every day. They tell us every day what they see around them. And the color blindness really is very dangerous. Ignoring color.
Ba apparently wants to kill me.
You're essentially ignoring the lived experience and the racial inequity that exists in society. And honestly, I need your children to see my children. To be visible really means that you acknowledge my experiences and you acknowledge my hurts. And then I know that I matter to you. I know that my children matter to you. So we're going to talk about really how to be more intentional, not to leave these conversations for others to have with your kids, social media, other kids, society at large. We really want to know that we are pouring into our children those values about racism and inclusion and diversity, and not leaving that to chance for other people. So
are those all pictures of her? Are those all pictures of her?
Woman, and as a Black mother,
hang on. So we're at 11:46. Those are pictures of her, right? That's her in her stock photo, like smiling thing. And then we go up to 11:46. Hang on. Get back to our spot. Those are pictures of her, right? Or am I wrong? But it looks a lot like her. That would be if she created her own stock photography to use in her own presentation. That's like next level coaching stuff. I totally recognize this. This is all from the coaching world. I absolutely recognize what she's doing.
Perspective, as a Black woman and as a Black mother, my fears really may look different from some of yours. My protection really focuses on me having what Black families often call the talk with their children very early. I've started having these conversations with my children, really for as far back as I can remember, 3 and 4-year-olds. When they were 3 and 4-year-olds, I
Listen,
was having conversations.
I've done this coaching thing with organizations where you go into organizations, you do presentations. That's corporate training. She's doing corporate training right now. So, like, I've done all of this stuff before. What I have never done is put stock photos of myself in the presentation to demonstrate concepts. I've never done that. That has never happened. In fact, towards the end, and when I say the end, I mean before the pandemic, because I was making most of my money doing like corporate training before the pandemic. I still do stuff with corporations, but I mostly do like assessments and like surveys and things like that now because I just don't want to do this stuff publicly with organizations. It's about me getting canceled, all that stuff. But so I was doing a lot of corporate training leading up to the pandemic, and the the thing that started happening, and it started happening about 6 to 8 months before the pandemic started, was every single time I gave a corporate training presentation, the point person at the company would say something like, "Karlyn, you have too many slides with white people in them." And at first I was like, okay, I'll diversify my slide. And I never paid attention to it because I was like just trying to find a stock photo to fit whatever concept I wanted. But then I would hear this feedback saying, you just have, too many slides with white people in them. So I started gradually swapping out all of the images in all of my presentations from real people to illustrations and cartoons and things that had no people in them at all, to the point where the very last corporate training event that I did before the pandemic, there were no white people in any of my slides. There were literally 0 white people in any of my slides. There were illustrations, there were comics, there were people of color in my slides, but I literally did a presentation with 0 white people intentionally because I had been getting this feedback so much that I took all of them out. Do you know what happened at the end of that presentation? The point person came up to me and said, "Karlyn, we really loved your presentation, but you just had too many white people in your slides." I swear to God, this really did happen. I had 0 white people in any of my and I have hundreds of slides in a presentation deck. 0 white people. I knew I had 0 white people because I had purposefully made it with 0 white people. And the point person at the organization still came up to me and said, "You just have too many white people in your slides, and I just want to give you that feedback because we have a diverse audience here, and I just think you had a little too many white people in yours." I was like, and I just had to bite my tongue because they hadn't paid me yet. I had to bite my tongue and be like, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll try to do better next time." But in my head, I'm like shouting. I'm like, "Oh my God." And this was around the time when I was really red pilling too. This was definitely one of my like big red pill moments where I was told I had too many white people in my slides when I had no white people at all. Yes, exactly. Spirit matter. They are literally seeing white people where no white people exist. That is the lunacy. That is the lunacy that these people have been driven to by white fragility. I swear this was a real thing that happened. I am not making this up. Oh God, there are days I miss corporate trading and there are days that I don't miss corporate trading. I'll tell you what, running assessments is so much easier. I get to sit in the background and send out surveys and help interpret surveys and stuff like that. I'm just like, that is my happy place, is running assessments. I will do corporate assessment work all day long because I don't have to be public and I don't have to do anything really except for run the assessments and talk about what I know.
About what it feels like and what it looks like to live in their Black skin. These talks are really a series of conversations that we have with our children from the time they're young until they really go off to college. And the talk includes preparing them for racism, discrimination, stereotypes, but it also includes how we educate them about being proud to be in their skin. You know, what their ancestors did, right? That was positive. And so there's a combination. I mean, I think it's in media, it just talks about the negative things that we have to tell our kids, but we also really give them a psychological armor in a positive way too, really, so they can navigate in the world. Some of the things that I've said to my own kids growing up is trying to explain to them how beautiful their skin is, how their hair is uniquely created, that they're just as good as anybody else, and they're no different because based on the color of their skins. I've even had to have conversations with kids about not putting their hands in their pockets while they're in stores, and about always getting a receipt. Like if my child is in the store getting a pack of gum or a bottle of Gatorade, I tell them to always walk out with a receipt. I don't want them to ever be in a situation where they're being blamed for something that they didn't do. So these are really things that we always have conversations with our kids about. The idea of, I tell my kids not to wear hoodies outside.
She is
And I
mumbling. She
teach
needs
them how
a
to
speaker
behave,
coach. She
and
is
how
mumbling.
to
I wish I
move
could
in
do
their
something about
bodies
that. I
if
can't.
they're
I'm happy to
looking
make
for
her
that law
louder if you guys need
enforcement.
me to.
So these are conscious efforts, intentional conversations that I'm often having with my kids as reminders of who they are, where they came from, and then how they may have to navigate in the world. So these talks really are about building positive racial identity, and as much as it is about keeping them safe in a very racialized society. So if you've never had to have those kind of conversations, or you've never thought about having those kinds of conversations with your kids, I need you to recognize that that really is a place of privilege. And I want to break down this word privilege, because there's a lot of negativity around the word. There's a lot of using this word really for negative gain, to separate, to make people feel guilty, to make people angry, to divide. And I really want to unpack.
I gotta finish this shawl before this Kickstarter ends. This shawl is like the never-ending shawl.
A mind shift.
Look at that
as to
fade.
how we look at privilege. It should
Look
not
at that
be used
fade.
as a word that weaponizes us in so many ways. And I really want to change the narrative there. So as we walk in our skins, or in our in the US, right? We all have multiple identifiers that we are associated with us based on our race, our gender, our class, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, our ability. All those things make up who we are. And in all of those identities, excuse me, we are either privileged in some, or in some we're marginalized. This dichotomy really changes based on where we're located and the time period in which we are living, right? So I'm going to use my own identity really to kind of drive the point here about privilege. In the US currently, as a Black woman, those are identifiers that are traditionally marginalized for me, being a woman and being Black. And I hold less power societally in those identities. But my other identities, like being upper middle class, heterosexual, cisgendered, Christian, those are all identities that I hold privilege, right? I don't have any guilt for that. I don't
Christians absolutely do have privilege.
There's nothing that I've done really to earn those privileges.
I agree with
it's
that.
It's just the system that's current, right? The system that we live in that gives me
Christian privilege.
And so
no offense to Christians
has a lot to do with acknowledging your white privilege, right? Your privilege in terms of race. And so let's reframe the idea of privilege being a weapon, and let's look at it more as a tool for change. So you should be asking yourself the question, how can I use my privilege in whatever identity that is to support and stand with those who do not have the same privilege?
I hope you got a fancy hotel room, Deborah.
Right now we're talking about race, but we could really interject any of those identities that I just named as a place to say, how can I use this identity as a tool for change? So by engaging in anti-racist work, you are making a conscious choice to really use your privilege of race as a tool for change against racism. And you're teaching your kids to do the same, to make those same choices. And if we are indeed teaching our kids,
oh, here we're getting into the good stuff. All right, we made it. We made it.
Do the same thing.
Wait, hang on. Hang on. Hang on. I need to take a screenshot of this slide. I'm sorry. Hang on. Hang on. I'm sorry. I'm going to be like, that escalated quickly. Hang on. I have too many windows open. I need to tweet this. I'm feeling compelled. The Twitter compels me. No, I'm not on Twitter. I'm just telling someone else to tweet it. Obviously, my account got permanently banned and I'm no longer on Twitter. I am instructing one of my minions right now, one of my sycophants, to tweet this for me. That's what's going on. Hang on, guys. Bear with me. Mount that like button if you haven't already, as I instruct my sycophants to send this very urgent tweet of this slide. That escalated quickly. All right. Tweeted.
Currently. So children are really learning about race and racism every day. No matter how quiet we are, no matter what bubble we're putting them in, no matter how we want to practice color blindness, our kids are eating it up every day. And research shows us that really children begin to form these race-related ideas long before we're ready to have those conversations with them. This awareness of
My
race
VPN is
begins as
always
early
on.
as infancy. There's a lot of studies
Don't worry.
that show between the age of 6 and 12 months, babies are already showing a preference
My
for
VPN is
members of their
permanent
own
and
racial
perpetual.
groups. By the time they're 7 months, they, when things are uncertain or they feel a little bit anxious, they're more likely to follow the gaze of a member of their own race. And by the time they're 9 months, they really associate positive, happy music from the study with those people who are from their own race. And the
No,
equivalent of that
they
is
associate it with their
looking at
parents.
other races
Their
and
parents.
faces with
Their
associating that
caretakers.
with sad music.
For
And so we
F's
see
sake.
already before we are even thinking about having conversations with our children, they are picking up messages around us in society that really start to get them to make decisions about race-based issues or race-based.
You know, where I do have to give her credit is she is actually quoting research, which is a new thing in these presentations. They don't actually usually quote any research at all. And so even though she isn't really giving us the study, she's not giving us the names of the studies, she's not talking about the exclusion criteria for the studies, she's not talking about how the studies were conducted, she's not talking about the limitations of the studies, she's not talking about the population for the studies, she's not talking about any of those things. At least she's giving us studies in some format. Maybe sometimes a little progress is better than no progress at all. Maybe.
Race identities. The researchers also in these studies suggest that there's a pattern that develops as a result of a lack of exposure, right? So when kids are young, they only mostly see people who look like them. And so that is kind of the reason why early on we see the studies that show that infants have a more propensity to gravitate to people who look like them. And so by the time they're in preschool, they've already become even more observant, and the differences such as skin color and hair texture, they're noticing it more and more, and they are often asking these questions, right? They're starting to develop really a racial bias already. Kids at this age in preschool, they start to show what's called in-group bias, which means they prefer people to choose friends with people who look like them. And so when they have a choice, they are leaning more toward people who
Shayna, she
look like
really
them,
could use
choosing them
Toastmasters.
as
It's true.
friends,
She could
choosing them
use
to
Toastmasters.
play with
Big
through
difference.
school. And
Oh,
so
captions.
they're also
Sorry, Spirit
starting to
Matter.
ask a lot of questions about differences. Sometimes that's embarrassing for us as parents because we're not sure how to answer it, but they're curious. And these questions are really, they're trying to make the connections between the categories that's happening in their schema. And they're trying to make sense of the world around them. And they start to get more sophisticated with their categorizing, but their experiences are still very limited. So there's a lot of misinformation that's going on with our preschoolers. I just as an example, if we look at like who the superheroes are, who the princesses are, things are getting better. But if you look at who those people who are good versus evil, or those people who are in charge in a lot of the shows that they watch, there are some societal messages that they are picking up, even though we're not having those conversations about them. And so preschoolers are using what limited schema that they have to really try to make sense of the world around them. And you can see I skipped the toddler age on this slide because I really want to dive a little bit more deeply into what we're finding in studies and research in early childhood about what's going on with toddlers and race. So, excuse me, there's extensive research that really supports this notion at this young age that toddlers are really making racialized conclusions about what they know, the limited knowledge that they have about the world. Racism is really learned early in their development, and children really are receiving these messages about race.
What they're learning is not racism. What they're learning is to identify with people who look like their parents, who are their primary caretakers. To say that it's racism and that it's inherently discriminatory or hateful to people who are of a different race is not accurate. Children rely on their parents or their caretakers to take care of their basic human needs, like giving them shelter, giving them food, changing diapers, making sure they're bathed, doing all the things that parents do. That's why children are more likely to identify with people who look like their parents. It's not about their race at all. It is about who is their caretaker, who is keeping them safe, who is protecting them, who is making sure they're getting the food. Human beings have basic needs: food, survival, and sex. And at this age, they're not concerned about sex. Sex comes later when they go through puberty, and then they're ready to procreate and perpetuate the species. But at this age, they're worried about two things: surviving and food. And that's it. That's all they're really worried about. And parents are the ones that protect them and give them food. That's why they identify with people who look like their parents.
Race and racism from places that we can't even imagine. Beverly Tatum, who is a racial identity theorist and professor, she always talks about this idea of racism being like smog, right? It's all over us, even though we don't see it, even though we don't necessarily know it's there, we're all breathing it in and it's hard to clear it. So sometimes our kids are seeing racist ideas around us because it is part of the society, right? It's become normalized in society.
They don't know
even
what it
recognize
means.
anymore.
They
So
do
within the
not know
first
what
years
anything
of a kid's
means.
life, they're really bombarded with these messages from the environment that really shape their beliefs, their judgments about other people, especially people who are different from them. And it doesn't take long for these messages to really kind of stick. And we have to do due diligence to unstick it for them because they've already connected these things in their brains. And we have to remind them and keep teaching them in order for it to unstick. Toddlers we know they use a lot of social cues, such as body language and facial expressions to really make sense of the world. So at this age, they are really watching us. They're watching the way we respond. How are you responding when somebody who's of a different race gets on the elevator with you? How are you responding driving down certain neighborhoods? What is your body language telling your kids? They're watching the way that we move. They're mimicking our attitudes and our racial biases without us really even knowing it. And so what that means is we have to really engage in some self-reflection, right? So that as we are navigating in the world, we have to be mindful of the ways that we are expressing ourselves non-verbally and what we are putting out for our kids to pick up. Research also shows us that as early as 3, toddlers really associate their racial groups with negative traits. They're already doing that. And they use these associations to develop their own understanding of the world. There's a group of professors at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. They found that at age 3, white children were equally likely to befriend Black or white children. But by the time they were 4 and 5, right, you're just talking about 12 or 24 months later, white children are more likely to choose other white kids as friends. So this toddler year is really important for us to lay the foundation of what our values are when it comes to race and race-based issues. Also at Yale University, the researchers found that by the age that kids were 3, white American children were more likely to associate both Black and Asian faces with anger, while they were rating white faces with more positive emotions.
Because those are their
The interesting
caretakers.
thing about this study is that when Black children didn't show the same in-group preference. So what this suggests is that this is not something that's like implicit bias, that it's not, you know, not conscious, but that kids are really picking up this idea of what status hierarchy is in our culture, where privilege comes from, and who has more power. So the fact that white children were able to make this distinction and Black children did not really show that it's more than just this implicit bias, but it really is the messages that they're picking up about who's in power and who's not in power.
Wait,
So the good news is,
did you hear that? Did anyone hear someone very faintly in the bed? Maybe this is because I'm wearing headphones. Did anyone hear someone very faintly in the background going, "You shut the fuck up"? Hang on. I am fairly certain I just heard that. Hang on.
is in our culture, where privilege comes from, and who has more power. So the fact that white children were able to make this distinction and Black children did not really show that it's more than just this implicit bias, but it really is the messages that they're picking up about who's in power.
Yes. I heard it. It's right there. It's right there. 25:30. Hang on. I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to turn it up. Hang on. It's in the background.
Make this distinction and Black children did not really show that it's more than just this implicit bias, but it really is the messages that they're picking up about who's in power.
Why don't you shut the fuck up? If she is presenting to the DC public schools, there is literally someone, it sounds like they're yelling, or there might be a video on saying, "Why don't you shut the fuck up?" I'm gonna turn it up a little bit more again, and we're gonna listen one more time. But I swear to God, that is exactly what I hear. We're gonna go back a few seconds. Oh God, 25:31.
This implicit bias, but it really is the messages that they're picking up about who's in power and who's not in power.
You hear that?
So the good news is
Wow.
that no one is
What
born
was
racist,
that?
right? And as parents, we
Okay.
can always
Hang on. We need to give her credit. Amidst her saying, amidst me hearing someone saying, "Why don't you shut the fuck up" in the background in my headphones, she said something very important. People are not born racist. I have to give her credit for this. No, she definitely heard it. Okay, I'm gonna watch her now. We're gonna watch that one more time because I want to watch her body language now. But like, you're gonna hear her say right after that guy yells in the background, like, she's gonna say people are not born racist, and this is something that we need to give her credit for because most people don't say this. Okay, so this is a good thing that she's saying.
did not really show that it's more.
I'm
than
watching
just
her
this
body
implicit
language.
bias, but it really is the messages that they're picking up about who's in power and who's
She
not
heard
in
it.
power. So the good news is that no one is born racist, right? And as parents, we can always counter these societal messages where our children are learning about racism. So they're malleable, they are curious and ready to learn. And so we can always continue to make sure that we are reinforcing these things to our kids so that we're raising kids who are indeed anti-racist. We can really start this by really thinking about how we socialize our children.
I want to say this.
Right? It really has to be a.
She doesn't actually strike me as someone that has ill intent in this. I feel a little bit bad for making fun of her earlier because she really doesn't strike me as someone that's like a true believer. She strikes me as a useful idiot. Now, it might not seem nice that I'm calling her a useful idiot, but that's actually between being a true believer and being a useful idiot. Being a useful idiot is actually a better thing. So I really don't think that she has any sort of malice. She strikes me as someone that, like, maybe she was taught this by someone else, but she maybe, like, she has good intentions with what she's doing. And I just want to acknowledge that, because not everyone that teaches this stuff has negative intent. Now, their impact might be negative, and they would tell us that the intent of our actions doesn't matter, only the impact. I do think the impact of her actions is negative, but I don't want to dismiss the intent. I don't think we should dismiss the intent. I think that she generally probably has positive intent with what she's doing. She doesn't strike me as a person that is being unnuanced about this. I think that she just might have a different opinion. And that's, people are allowed to have different opinions.
Conscious effort. As children grow and learn, these messages about race come from all corners, right? Social media, news, entertainment, their teachers, their peers, their community, and of course, family members, right? So all children, including white children, learn about race through this process called racial ethnic socialization, which just means that the beliefs, the messages, the practices that we instruct in our children about their racial and ethnic heritage and their identity. So it's how we're teaching our kids about who they are. So the researchers show that there's 4 different common aspects that families are teaching us with their kids. The first one is cultural socialization, which means we're teaching our kids to be proud about who they are, right? We're teaching them positive identity. The second one is preparation for bias. So these are discussions that you have with your kids about that discrimination really exists in the world, that things are not fair, and how do we deal with those things. The third way that we have conversations about race with kids is this promotion of mistrust, right? So we're teaching children to be wary of people who look different from them or in different environments. And then the fourth way is this way of looking at the world as if really the color blindness of that we are one human family. So it's valuing us as a whole versus really looking at different individual racial groups. And then families of all racial and ethnic backgrounds really draw on all of these strategies, but it shows that the research shows that mostly white families are drawing from this one of the 4, right? And we have Black families who really, on the other hand, they have to use these other ways of talking with kids about race.
Have a good weekend, Phil. See you soon. See you on Sunday. By the way, guys, intermission, because Phil just reminded me of something. I want to let everyone know that just in case you hadn't heard, hang on, let me get it up. Just in case you hadn't heard, on Sunday, we are doing a special movie night in my supporter Discord, and we are going to be watching Soylent Green. And so if you are not in my supporter Discord, make sure you join either Locals or Patreon. I will be sending out the information for the supporter Discord, but please join us on Sunday night. We're going to be watching Soylent Green together at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you have not recently seen Soylent Green, or you have not ever seen Soylent Green, you need to come to movie night. You really do. Or I guess you could watch it on your own, but let's be honest, it's going to be more fun to watch it amongst a group of people. We're going to have discussions, and my community is awesome. They are the best people on the internet. They are the only sane people on the internet. Or maybe we're the insane people within a sane world, or we're the sane people within an insane world. I'm not sure. But I actually just watched Soylent Green recently. I rewatched it, and it is even more applicable now than the last time I watched it. It is uncanny. And did you guys know Soylent Green takes place in 2022? You cannot make this stuff up. This movie was made in the 70s, and it is set in 2022. So we're going to be watching that on Sunday at 8 p.m. in my Discord. You will get access to it if you are a supporter in Locals. You will get access to it if you are on my Patreon. And you know what? I will even, if you donate to my Indiegogo campaign, unwokearmy.com/parents. If you donate to that, I will email you the supporter Discord link. So you don't have to be in Locals or Patreon, but if you give a gift to the Indiegogo, I will also email you the supporter Discord link so you can come and join us for movie night as my personal thank you for helping me train 10,000 parents how to research what's going on in the schools. The actor is Charlton Heston. It's a really good movie. You guys are going to love it. So either join Locals or join Patreon or make a gift to my Indiegogo campaign to help train 10,000 parents how to find out what the schools are doing with only publicly available information. And you will get to come join us on Sunday to watch Soylent Green. All right. Good intermission, guys. Let's go back to the presentation. Hang on. Mount that like button if you haven't already.
Be conscious about thinking about your own.
We
way
went
that
up
you were
and now
raised,
we're
right?
down.
A lot of white families didn't talk specifically about
Hang on. We
race.
got a super chat in. Turd Ferguson, thank you for the super chat. If not the best name that I can say, I feel so much better knowing that you're not you're not one human family. I posted in your Locals about woke kindergartners program in my school district. Thank you. I will make sure to look at that. That's definitely the type of content I'm looking for. And guys, if you're not yet part of the Unwoke Army, I want to encourage everyone to join as well. You can watch a webinar that I gave this week at unwokearmy.com. Just sign up for the on-demand replay, and that'll give you information about how to join the Unwoke Army. And we're going to be looking into a lot of this stuff with the schools. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, definitely check out unwokearmy.com. And thank you for the super chat, Turd Ferguson.
And then what do you want to pass on to your children? What do you want the messages that they get when they become adults to reflect how you talked about race in your homes? So sometimes when we embark on new ways of being or new ways of showing up for ourselves, and definitely for our kids, right? We get stuck sometimes and we get paralyzed in some of our actions. And although it's really important for us to start teaching anti-bias messages as early as we can, it's also really valuable for children to understand that those racist beliefs are not permanent. And I want you, as you start on your journey, or as you deepen your journey as anti-racist, there's 6 things I really want you to keep in mind for yourself, right? When those familiar fears start to rear their heads, and really for your children as you start to have these conversations. The first thing is small steps that move you forward. You're not expected to know everything. You're not expected to have all the right answers. So really start taking small actions. They still count. And over time, small steps really move mountains, right? So don't be afraid. Don't think that you doing a little bit is not enough. The second thing is activism can be quiet. So expand your ideas.
Very quiet in her case. My God, she just keeps getting quieter and quieter.
Quiet spaces of your children's bedrooms,
she is literally at 400% plus volume right now.
Those are activist actions, right? Activism is happening. Reading and having dialogue around inclusive books with your children, writing emails or letters to your local politicians, all of those things count, and they're all part of being an activist in your community. Sending donations to anti-racist organizations, buying from Black-owned businesses, those are all part of the journey. So don't think that you have to take your kids on rallies every time. There's a lot of ways for us to show up for other cultures, particularly in the Black community. Excuse me. There's more than one way of being an anti-racist, right? So find your passion, find the project.
There's more than one way to be an anti-racist, guys. There's still hope.
Really lights you up, and discuss ways that you can really make a difference based on that one organization or that one topic.
Don't worry, it's going to be okay.
Family, with your inner circle, really, and then dive deep within that one topic or that one passion. Also, being an activist or an anti-racist, it's not a checklist, it's not temporary, and it's not on trend. I saw a lot of people during the summer of 2020 after the murder of George Floyd kind of put their Black squares up or were active for a period of time, but really, they really haven't done anything since.
This is the second time this week we have heard these people complaining about performative activism. This is the second time this week I've seen a video like this where they're complaining. They're like, just because you post a black square on Instagram does not make you an activist, and you really need to do better. You need to do the work. And a black square is not activism, okay? I'm not saying she's talking like that, but that's kind of like the voice I hear in my head around this. But this is the second time this week we've heard them complaining about that. So what that tells me is if we're hearing multiple people complain about performative activism, it tells me they're not being able to use this as like for fundraising like they once were, and they're trying to guilt people into doing more. That would be my guess anyway about what's going on.
Understand. So anti-racist parenting or activism is really ongoing. It's really a daily practice of what we're putting into our children every day, showing up in a way, showing up in a space where we are saying to ourselves, how am I intentionally planting the seed in my children so that they grow up in a way that they create belonging in the world. And then the fifth one is it's not easy and you will feel uncomfortable. So be ready and be willing to really kind of keep working through it. If it feels easy, really, I think you should re-examine the way you're doing it. If it gets too easy, it may mean that you're not pushing yourself enough.
So she's literally saying, if you don't feel uncomfortable, you're doing anti-racism wrong. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable. Why don't you feel uncomfortable? People shouldn't feel uncomfortable in self-reflection. I'm sorry. Like that's not so I don't think people should feel uncomfortable doing that. But that's just me.
So you should always teeter on this idea of being comfortable.
You will need to apologize and you won't like it.
And the last thing is you're going to make mistakes. When you make a mistake,
yay, Sin got a bingo. Congratulations, Sin. Well done.
Mistakes. Don't over apologize. Even to your kids, you're going to make mistakes with your kids as you're explaining, as you're
do not apologize to your children.
And just stay mindful of that so that you don't make those mistakes again and you continue to grow. And I think really finding safe spaces like.
All right, guys, I'm about to finish my first beer. And so we're going to get that lollipop beer because I think that was the second vote getter was the lollipop beer. You too says, my USC roommate was Charlton's limo driver. The activist perspective holds for us too. Elections coming up. What did he say about Charlton Heston? Was Charlton Heston nice? Was he someone that he would recommend? Okay, you guys might not believe this. The 10 Commandments is one of my favorite movies of all time. I fucking love the 10 Commandments. I have watched the 10 Commandments 8,000 times. Well, okay. King Peter of the chat, what do you want me to drink? What would you be excited for me to drink? Bot wants me to drink the lollipop beer. King Peter, what do you want me to drink? I kind of want to try the lollipop beer. I'm not going to lie. I do. But King Peter is King Peter of the chat. So, I got to go with cider donut bot. I'm sorry. King Peter of the chat is King Peter for a reason. And we've got to go with what the king wants. As I spill beer down my face, it goes down the wrong pipe. Hang on. I swear I'm not drunk. I'm just really clumsy. Okay. Let me see. We're going with cider donut. Let's see. He said he had a lot of respect for Charlton and said he tipped well. Well, that's the mark of a good person. The good tippers, come on. You have to. I absolutely do judge people by how they tip, by the way. I'm a good fucking tipper. It's not alcohol abuse. I've had one beer. I'm a clumsy drinker, okay? All right, let's see. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, I just opened it and I got a waft of like apple cinnamon. Like just like it was. Oh, it really does smell like apple cinnamon. Oh my God. I'm so looking forward to this. It looks nice and dark and amber. This smells so good. This cider is incredible. This is so good. This taste, do you guys ever get like, okay, who goes to Cracker Barrel? I haven't been to Cracker Barrel in a minute, but I love me some Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel is the best. And what this tastes like is the apples at Cracker Barrel that come in like the caramel or whatever. It is so good. This is by far the best cider I've had from this company. And I've had their raspberry cider, I've had their blueberry cider. I really like their ciders a lot. This is 1911 Cider Donut. It's in New York. If you're in New York, you'll probably be able to get this, or in the surrounding area. This is really good. Like this is like perfect fall. Perfect fall beer or cider. Wow. King Peter of the chat, cheers to you, my friend. Well done. Well done. Thank you for forcing me to have that on camera. I appreciate it. Ba, I'm sorry. Lollipop's going to have to wait. I'm sorry. All right, let's keep going.
This one really, where you can do the work, you can be vulnerable. All of that is important to the process, that you can lean on others who are also trying to do the work. A lot of kids really don't have the freedom of being aware of their differences, but it's
look at that
it's on
bougie
my
white
mind all the
liberal
time,
teacher in
right?
the
I'm
middle.
always thinking
Look at
about
the
how
bougie
my
white
kids show
teacher
up,
in the
if they'll be
middle.
welcome in a space. Can I take my children there? And I think something that we need to do, something as white parents, I think need to do is really put themselves in positions where they may feel that too. The idea is really to not normalize diversity and not really other people while you're doing it. Really, this idea of appreciating and learning from others whose perspectives are different is how we really start to begin to build a better world. And it's really important that children are learning to value these different viewpoints, and that we are teaching our children that diversity really makes the world richer, more interesting, and really more beautiful. So try to create opportunities for you and your little ones to really interact and make friends with people who are different from you. And I think the best way to really
I don't think this
understand
is
one
bad
another is
advice if
really
I'm
to
honest
spend
about it.
time
I
with each
really
other.
don't.
It really does break down walls. So when I see adults really developing these relationships with people who are different from them, when your kids see that, when you're modeling that for your kids, it teaches them how to value these relationships. And as you know, children really learn best with concrete experiences, right? They need to see it. They need to practice it. They need you to model those things for them in order for them to really be able to take those in their own lives and really own it and learn. Um, we have to expose our kids to things that are new and different, even things that are new and different for you. For you, I'm trying to expose them to role models from their own culture as well as others. I think it's really important to have professionals in your life who don't look like you, like your pediatrician, your kid's dentist, your children's coaches or teachers or dance teachers, whoever they are, right? You want to normalize that excellence comes in different ways. And so if all of all of the adults that your children come in contact with look like you, that's something that's an easy fix for you, right? That's something that you can do to make some changes in your immediate circles. Um, Really exploring outside your neighborhood. I mean, DC is one of the most diverse areas in our country. There's treasures out there. It's really important that your kids get to see what that looks like, and not having them in the same bubble if you only live around people who look like you. So venture out, do things that may scare you a little bit. Go into libraries that are not in your neighborhood. Go to cultural events and places that you can take your kids to so they can see and they can normalize people that look different from them. And honestly, representation matters. So when you think about even the things that are in your house, like the faces on diaper boxes,
No,
food containers, or the packaging.
we don't hate you, Rachel. What are you talking about? We love you.
It's sending a message to your kids, even at a young age.
I don't think she's suggesting bad things, which is why I'm not
diversity
saying
may
anything
not
about
be
it.
as
I don't
important to
actually
you
think this is
as
bad. I really
you
don't.
think
I'm
it
sorry.
is. And then the other
That's a
thing
horrible
is,
slide.
really, it's about doing the work, right? Get informed, learn.
I keep hearing people yelling in the background. I don't know if it's the room she's in or if it's a video playing in the background, but it really sounds to me on my headphones like there are people out in the hall yelling and acting very aggressively towards each other.
The inclusive language that you need and the terms. I know things are always changing, right? The terms and the language that we use when we're talking about others always changes, but that's important for you to stay up on top of it, right? As you're learning and you're growing your confidence about topics that normally would scare you. It's important for your family that you do the work. And a lot of the things when it comes to diversity and racism with toddlers, it's really about the way that you show up. It's about what you model. It's about what you learn so that as they grow, that you're teaching them the things that you're learning and you're feeling more comfortable about it. Talking about people's diversity really
Sin asked in the chat, could it be her family having a fight in the living room? It could be. It really could be. Maybe she's in another room. She's made it look like an office. I don't know. Maybe she's in an open office. That could be. I don't know, but it definitely sounds to me like someone's having a fight. Which, I mean, sucks, honestly. Like I've been in a position where I've had to do like training gigs where I've had inconvenient things going on. And so if that's the position that she's in and she can hear this while she's doing a training, she's actually doing a fairly good job of keeping it together. So I'll give her points for that. Because it's not easy when you have chaos going on around you. So I'll give her points for that. I actually don't think she's being really offensive with any of the things that she's saying so far anyway. It's kind of like basic, like, get your kids around people who don't look like them, which isn't bad. And we have to acknowledge that that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to expose your children to a variety of different experiences, a variety of different people. It's probably not a bad thing to expose your kids to people who don't look like them because, like I said, they're identifying with their caretakers. And so someone who looks different than their caretakers are going to be kind of like foreign to them and might be a little bit scary because they don't know people who look like that. And so I don't think it's necessarily bad to expose kids to like people who don't look like them and say they're not mean, they're not bad, they just look different. They just look different. Well, Diane, I have her volume turned up about as high as I can go. I'm happy to go higher if you want, but I have it turned up about as high as it can go at this point.
Heightens your children's awareness. It gives them a maturity about things like race and disability. Don't be afraid to really have these hard conversations early because it may not resound or resonate with them right away, but the more you're having it, the more it's going to click from them and they're going to be able to make the right connections between what they see in the world and what's important to you and the values that you have in your household. I think it's also important that we actively look for subtle openings that create opportunities for us to talk about diversity with our kids. Use the moments in our homes, the materials that we already have at our disposal, right? Our neighborhoods, the books that we have in our homes, the commercials on TV, the TV shows that we watch. You can have conversations around those things as your kids are watching, getting them to notice different things. I also think it's really important that the stereotypes that we see in media sometimes are subtle for kids, but over time, as you start having conversations about it, they will start to pick those things up so they don't internalize them. So having some media literacy around common everyday stereotyping is a real big part of media consumption that you are allowing your kids to watch. You may find that your child is kind of repeating some things that they may have heard on TV that may not align with your core values. But it's really important that we don't overreact because this will shut down their curiosity, right? It will shut them down for asking questions or making comments in the future. And we really don't want that. But the idea too is that you don't want to ignore it, because ignoring it, it solidifies to them that what they're saying is right. So really, you don't want to overreact, but you don't want to ignore. You want to bring it to their attention, but you want to teach them in a way that they feel open and they don't feel attacked by it. We want to teach our kids to be critical thinkers, to understand issues, examine and question, and that's all through their natural curiosity. When we start shutting down their natural curiosity, they stop asking questions. They stop thinking in a way that allows them to be more creative. So they can develop these skills really, and they really have a good sense of when somebody is hurt or something that's unfair. And we want to kind of lean into that and teach them the vocabulary that they can use.
Sin is asking a great question. Do I think she's an S or an I on disc? S. She's an S. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I do disc training, which is just about different work styles and communication styles and stuff like that. And the S style is the steadiness style. They just like things to be like nice and even keeled, and they are not a fast-paced person. They are a moderately paced person because they like every problem to be accounted for before they move forward, and they take care of other people. I actually call them the supporter style, not the steady style. And they usually, one of the key characteristics of the S style is that they talk softly. Low, exactly, Sin, exactly right. Low energy, which is not bad. Sometimes these are like the office moms. They're like the office therapists. If you have something to complain about when you're at work, you find someone like this because they're going to listen to you. They're going to try to help you. They're going to be really supportive of you. But they do talk a lot softer. So well done, Sin. Well done.
To kind of talk about these things. Remember that their questions and their comments are really a way of them gathering information. So don't be embarrassed by something they may say, and don't feel that what they're asking you is stemming from a way of them being prejudiced or biased, right? They're just trying to understand the world around them. Excuse me. And as I just said, it's really important that we embrace their curiosity. They have a lot on their minds, even at 2 and 3, right? And they have a lot they want to talk about and they want to share. And it's really important for us as parents during this time is that we're really listening to what they're trying to tell us. Sometimes it's easy to be impatient, but it's really important that they feel nurtured at that time. Because
this is why I can't be a parent. Be like, no, you were wrong.
Older, those conversations are easier for them, and they feel that you've always listened to them, and they have a safe space to go to when they do want to talk. It's really important not to overparent, which is a real issue today. We want to explain everything to our kids. We want to do it all for them. We don't want them to hurt. We don't want them to struggle. But the more we listen and the more that we model for them, the more that we can really teach them what it is that we want them to know that aligns with our core values. So active listening is really important even at this age. This way, you are allowing them to lean into that curiosity, and that you're providing a safe place for them to be able to do that too. You also don't want to underparent, which means that your kids, you're not redirecting your children when they have these comments or these questions that, one, you may be uncomfortable answer, or two, that they don't align with what it is that you really want to teach your kids. So you're going to have conversations around that, and not ignore when things come up that make you feel uncomfortable. And as they start to get a little older, they are going to start to ask more questions, and more questions that you
Melissa, good question. Why are these kids praying? Good question, Melissa.
What you want to say to them. And if you don't say the right thing, that's okay too. You could say something like, I need to think about your question and talk, and I need to think about your question, and maybe I need to talk to you a little bit later. Or like, yesterday you asked me a question about whatever it is, and let's talk about it now. I don't really know. I really answered you the right way yesterday. I've now thought about it or looked something up, and I really want to come back and have that conversation with you. What did you hear me say? So that you know where they are, where the gaps are. And it's good that they see that you don't have the answers. You know, that's part of them learning too, that as they grow up, they don't need to have all the answers too. So when your kids are nonverbal, which some of your kids may be at 1 and 2, it's really important that you start paying attention. Like maybe they're pointing at something, or maybe they're touching somebody else's hair, right? You can then reaffirm what they're doing and saying, but saying, oh yes, he has straight hair and you have curly hair. Or, you know, so you want to make what they're thinking or what they're saying, what they're pointing to, into a statement so that it makes sense for them as they grow up and they start to have language around
I
it.
just want to point out,
Another thing that's really important too is
I don't think she's actually saying anything wrong, but the whole straight hair, curly hair thing is they're noticing differences. That's what that is. Human beings look for patterns in things. We look for patterns, like our brain tries to organize information, and it's in a constant state of doing that. So we're always looking for patterns in things to make sure things are predictable, because if things are predictable, that means fundamentally that we're safe. Okay? But like when kids are like, I want to touch your hair because I don't understand what this is, it's because there's a difference in the pattern. And they're like, I want to understand this thing. It has nothing to do with race at all. It could be a white girl that has curly hair and they're like, what the fuck is this? I've never seen this before. They're trying to organize based on the pattern. That's what's going on in their head. So this actually isn't about race at all. It's just about noticing differences. Okay? But overall, I'm struggling with this week's session because I don't actually think she's doing that bad. I really don't. People might disagree with me, but I actually don't think that that pretty much any of the suggestions that she's given so far are inherently bad or wrong or any of these things. She doesn't, to me, come across as someone who's trying to actually perpetuate this ideology. Maybe she is, and maybe she's just doing it in different presentations. I don't know. But I don't think that she's being unreasonable here, and I do think we need to acknowledge when people are not being unreasonable.
to talk to other parents who are also having the same questions, right? Talking to other people really kind of helps you to grow your own parenting toolbox, and it makes you not feel like you're alone. So find a group of parents who are also trying to do the same thing and have the same values in raising their kids, and use each other to lean on one another. And then finally, kids who really can put themselves in someone else's shoes are really less likely to bully, to tease, or to be bystanders when things are happening. And so this, at this age, is done with you modeling, right? Talk to your kids about what they think about others, right? Ask them, how would they feel if somebody was mean to them? Talk about what that feels like to you. Give vocabulary and language around things that make you sad or make you upset or make you things that you don't feel that's fair. So the more you're talking and giving them language, the more that language will connect to their own values as they begin to grow up. The bottom line is that you really need to teach your kids that all people, despite their differences, they all deserve respect and they all have value. And if we overlook any kind of bigotry or any kind of racism, we're really sending a message to our kids that it's okay, that they feel a certain way about certain groups. So to raise a tolerant child, really, you need to help your child learn the values that everyone should be valued as a human being. Okay. So I want to close with a couple of slides that really kind of give you some more practical tips, perhaps, that you can use with your little ones. It's really important that you extend your neighborhood to additional neighborhoods in your community. It'd be really nice if you research and attend any festivals or activities in your community that really would expose your kids to differences on a regular basis. One of the most common questions that I hear parents say, or one of the comments that they say, is that we just don't have time to add that to our schedule. And I always think you have time to schedule your kids' friends' birthday parties, sporting events, and all those things. You do have time to schedule it. Put it on the calendar once a month, and you know that's part of your monthly outings. It's really important that our kids are exposed to differences early. The second statement that I hear a lot too is that we don't live in an area where there's people of colors. And again, if you chose to get out of your protected bubble, DC is one of the most diverse places around. And so you may have to be more intentional about the way you
To be
provide those
fair, there are
things to
really
people in certain
dangerous
lives.
areas of DC too that you probably shouldn't go.
How you can do this
I'm
in a
just
way
saying,
that
that's true.
makes sense for your family, but that you're exposing your children to people who are different. I think it's also important that as your children are watching things, it's important that you watch it with them, because in this way you can highlight positive characteristics of people. For example, if you're watching like Doc McStuffin, right? She's a Black girl, but you could highlight how smart she is, what a creative thinker she is, without necessarily saying that she's Black.
I
So
don't
what
think
you're
that's a bad
doing
idea,
is you
if I'm
are
honest about it.
normalizing
Don't think it's bad.
normal human characteristics, positive characteristics to people of color. And I think that's really important, that we don't always try to do anti-racist with teaching about Blackness in ways that it's just about Blackness. But we also want to make sure that we're teaching our kids that everybody has this human experience, right? But you want to expose them to different kinds of people having these human experiences. Also, I think it's really important that you
No, you are doing so good.
In your
No.
It's going to radiate and it's going to transfer into how you interact with your children. So consider the perspectives of different authors, right? If you're beginning your journey into anti-racist, it may be easier for you to read something from a white author. That's a great entry point. Like White Fragility by Rodman D'Angelo could be a great start.
No,
make sure you don't
read
there,
that book.
You want to read authors,
no,
people who are living the experience.
Yeah,
of,
exactly. What did
being
she just
Black
say?
in
What did she just say? This is the only slide I can really drag her on. She was like, "You can start with the white lady book, White Fragility, written by a bougie white lady. You can start with White Fragility, but don't end there. Don't do it, because you need to move on to people who are living the experience and are actually Black." She was doing so good up until this slide. I had no problem with most of the things she said, up until she's like, "You need to do the work and learn how to be an anti-racist." I actually don't even have a problem with the documentary she's suggesting people watch. Don't have a problem with it at all. But 1619 Project, White Fragility, How to Be an Anti-Racist. No, 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 no.
America, right? The Black experience. And you can do this through books, you can do this through podcasts, you can do these through documentaries. But it's a way of always being intentional about the way you're educating and growing yourself. And what you're learning makes it more comfortable when you're ready to have conversations with your children. And so it's really just as much about your own learning as about what you're teaching for your kids. You can't practice what you don't know. So now, while your kids are young, it's really a great time to kind of dive into these things so that as your children grow, you will feel more comfortable with having some of these conversations. Other small things that you can do is really, as you develop your play dates and you attend story times at libraries, choose different libraries to go to, right? Some that you are not normally a part of. I think it's really important too, as white allies, as anti-racists, that you put yourself in situations where you or your family are not the dominant race. I think it's good to feel what that feels like in order to be able to really stand with and support people and people of color in different communities. And I know the low-hanging fruit that you already know is about expanding your books and your toys and your children's collections. When you talk about how characters are different, it's just as important to talk about how they're similar. So kids can see the differences are great, yes, but there's also a lot of things that bind us together. So making sure you're touching on both of those sides. We know about diversifying our dolls and our toys, and this is not necessarily anti-racist, but I think it's really important that we buy boys dolls and we buy girls trucks, right? So we want to make sure we're genderizing our toys and our books for our children as well. And then finally, some tips I would say is that, excuse me, that we really should think about how we're using language to really represent our feelings. I think we want to move our kids beyond the ideas of being happy, sad, and angry, that we want to really nuance our feelings. So as they start to grow up and they start to learn about all of these things that are going on in the world that are not just, that they really have the vocabulary to really connect what they're feeling to words so that they can express themselves to others. And I think the most important thing that we can do is really model for our kids what compassion and kindness looks like. Sometimes when we're doing a kind deed, we should talk out loud of what you did and why you did it so that your kids can start connecting that action with the words, right? What they see and what they hear, making that connection. So using that idea of talk alouds. And I think also we really need to, and I said this earlier, but I think I want to kind of reiterate that it's really important that we are very cautious and very intentional about our nonverbals, especially when we're around people who are different from us. Those are the things that our toddlers are picking up first. More than the words that we say, it's our body language, it's our facial expressions, because they begin to mimic us. And you want to be very careful about what your kids are mimicking when it comes to race issues or groups of people who are different from you. And then the final thing is really the bottom line at this age is you want to model the behavior that you want your children to exhibit when they get older. So it's not so much about what you're saying, but it's about the way that you're showing up so that your kids can see what's important to you, because you can say that it's important to you, but if they don't see you modeling those things, it's not going to transfer to them as they start to grow older, and start to make more associations with the world around them. Okay, I am going to stop sharing at this point and see if we have any questions. Thank you, guys.
Well, let's see.
Well, thank you so much.
Uh-oh.
Actually, that was a lot of amazing information. I'm going to invite Courtney.
Why does our internet suck? This isn't me. This is the internet. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Don't touch anything.
So they'll pull some of those as well. I do
All
want
right.
to remind everybody this evening that we did record the session and we'll post it. So if you weren't able to make it, you can view it on the DCPS YouTube page. And I'll also put up a slide in just a moment that has Alyssa, take it away.
Oh, God. What the hell was that?
All right. So one of the questions we
Yeah,
got is,
well
I'm scared
done.
of teaching my child the wrong things and having them repeat it and offend someone. So what words should I use when introducing the concept of
That's
race?
not a real
Like
question.
white,
They planted
Caucasian,
that.
Black, brown,
They planted that. That wasn't
African-American?
real.
What's the guidance?
How much
Yeah,
louder is
I
this
don't really
person?
think you
Holy
have to
shit.
use a term like that until it's necessary. I would say this though, when you don't know what people are in terms of the Black community, when you don't know their background and you don't know their culture, using the term Black is more inclusive, and not African American, because you can have people who are from who are Caribbean, like Jamaican or Bahamian or people from Africa. So I would use the word Black if you are trying to identify a group of people. And I think not so much getting hung up on the words, but I think you need to kind of lean into the idea of teaching your children, exposing them to different kinds of people, right? They will start to ask questions eventually about skin color, but I don't think you have to label it at this early age. I think exposing them and then talking about the skin color being different. I'm a big proponent of not really necessarily saying his skin is black, her skin is white, but I talk in terms of what makes it that color, like, right? We all have melanin in our skin. Some of us have more, some of us have less, depending on where our ancestors or our families came from. So those are some words that you can use to teach them how to look beyond the labels that we use in our country.
Thank you. We had an interesting question about community helpers. So a parent is wondering, what are some tips for talking about community helpers with young children?
The hell is a
specifically
community
law
helper?
enforcement or police officers?
Oh, police.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to teach
Community
kids
helper.
that
What an interesting
police
name.
officers are, their role is to protect and serve. I think, generally speaking, that is something that we should be teaching our children. But I also think it's important to teach our kids that there are people in all walks of life that don't always make the right decisions, and they don't always have the best.
This is a great
The
answer.
best at heart for everybody.
This
right?
is a
So I don't
great
want anybody
answer.
to teach your kids to fear the police or law enforcement, because the majority of people in law enforcement are good people who are doing the right thing. But I think it's also important to say that sometimes just
I wonder, is she secretly red-pilled? Because this is a really good and nuanced answer that she's giving, and this is not the typical answer that we would see from someone that is doing this type of training. Is she like secretly red-pilled in her head? Is she like secretly like voting Republican and then slide and like just not talking about it? Because she really is striking me as one of those people that's like, there are some legitimate problems that have to do with race, but we're also not going to catastrophize everything and make everyone who doesn't look like me racist, which I actually appreciate. I really do. She's given a lot of really nuance. She's like, just put your kids around other people. I really do kind of believe she's like a secret conservative. That she's like, if I was publicly conservative, and by conservative, I just mean I don't necessarily think she's in the back pockets of the Democrats, but like, I really think it's like she's saying some things that like she feels like she needs to say, but she's also not doing the typical kind of like woke training that we're used to seeing, which I appreciate. I would love to have a private conversation with this woman, be like, what do you really think? Did you really read White Fragility? Do you really agree with Robin DiAngelo that all white people are racist? Yeah, I really think she means well. I do. She's giving good nuanced takes. I'm not mad at this. It's like, you know what it is, John? It's like her beard. It's like, no, I'm really woke. I'm going to mention how to be an anti-racist. I'm really woke. Trust me, I'm really woke. But I'm also going to say the police aren't really the bad guys, and most of them are doing okay. And you know, maybe it's just about getting your kids around different types of people. This was not at all what I was expecting from this training, and I'm kind of digging it, if I'm honest about it. I really am. And it's important that we're able to distinguish between this type of training and like actual woke training. Because it's like, I really think she's just trying to do the right thing. I do. All right, guys, we got about 5 minutes left. Please mount that like button if you haven't already. Let's wrap this up.
Like in every other job, you know, we have teachers, we have firefighters, we have police officers who who make judgments about people based on how they look. And sometimes it's based on their skin color. So I would still talk about community helpers, but talk about it from the sense that most of them do the right thing all the time. But sometimes we have cases where it's not so. So I try not to teach my own kids too to fear police officers. I know when my kids were younger, especially my boys, when we would see a police officer in a neighborhood or at a restaurant, if we were eating, I would take my kids up to them and introduce them and say, thank you for protecting and serving. These are my kids, you know, just so my kids don't have a fear of police officers.
That's actually kind of nice. I don't like police officers, but that's kind of nice. Right? I do. I think it's good.
What that means for them as young Black boys.
There was another question that I really liked that was, what does allyship look like for young children?
Yeah, I would look at it more, not so much what it looks like for young kids, but what it looks like for your family, right? So whatever it looks like for your family are the values that you're going to instill in your kids when they're young. It may look like you showing up for rallies, right? It may look like you making donations, right? It may look like you collecting things and letting your children be a part of collecting things to take to organizations. And so I would say wherever you lean into that with your own family, you make sure that your kids are a part of that. So as they grow, they've learned what you've taught them. And then as they get older, they may find their own ways of being a part of an allyship. But I think it looks like whatever it looks like for your family, and they should 100% be a part of anything that you're doing to support and to stand with groups of people who are different from your family.
Wonderful. I think we've got time for one more question. And as we answer that, I'm going to put up a slide that has all of our contact information on
Oh,
it.
good. Oh, good.
And so that we hope you'll keep in touch and that you'll reach out to us with additional questions and comments. Please don't forget to fill out our survey. The link is in the chat. The feedback that you give us helps to inform the content of these sessions. And so we definitely want to hear from all of you as well. So maybe one last question and then we'll let you go. Thank you so much, Dr. Baxley.
Yes, for sure.
Dr. Baxley, I know we also have some of our amazing pre-K teachers on the call, and they were wondering what's the best way to talk about race in the classroom?
Yeah, that's that one's hard. It's even harder nowadays because of all the laws and all of the mandates that are going around. I'm in Florida, and so we are really.
She lives in
I'm
Florida.
also a professor in teacher education, so me trying to teach teachers how to handle that, and as they go out into
She's a conservative.
Next year or two.
She's a conservative. Mark my words. She's a conservative. I'm not even mad at this.
Exposure at this age, right? I think it may not be what you say, but it's what they see. So I think making sure that you are engaging with books that are very diverse, I think is important that when you have a diverse classroom, that who that child is and their background is brought into the classrooms. I'm a big proponent of critical, of cultural relevant teaching, cultural responsive pedagogy.
No, that's really CRT. No.
And I think having relationships with your kids to know what's important to them and how they feel about certain topics is really important, so that you can create instruction and curriculum that really supports the kids who are in your classrooms.
She's woke bearding. I know it. I know it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And with that, we'll leave everybody to have a good night and get back to parenting your young children. And we hope that you will join us again for an upcoming session. This conversation has been the first of what we hope to be many conversations about this. So thank you guys for joining this evening. Dr. Baxley, thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise, and have a great night.
All right, guys, I guess that is all we have for the presentation today. I'm going to be honest. I'm not even mad at it. I think she's pretending. I think she's putting on a show. I think this is why she mumbles. She was, oh, hang on. Oh, gosh. Hang on. Gosh. It started with a new presentation. It was very loud because I had it at like 800% volume increase. But I think she was bluffing. I really do. I think that she was woke bearding. I think she was pretending to be woke to make money, which not necessarily a good thing. But I actually don't think she bought into that she was bought into like a lot of the uber woke concepts, because most of her presentation was just about like, put your kids around different types of people and expose them to different types of people, and oh, the police aren't that bad, and maybe you want to even introduce your kids to the police. She was woke bearding is what she was doing. I have never seen something like this before. I really do think this is the first presentation in the history of Happy Hour where I thought something was going to be completely and totally woke, and it actually turned out to be completely, well, not completely, but like 90% reasonable. And she's talking about introducing her kids to the police to make sure her kids know the police aren't bad. And I'm not even someone that I don't even like the police. I really don't. But I'm like, there is hope in the world. This presentation was a white pill. There was hope in the world. You know what? I have no problem with this woman pretending to be woke. Do you want to know why? Because if that is what most woke training looks like, I have no problem with it. Okay, she didn't say everything I wanted her to say, and she had a couple things in there that I object to. But you know what? If you can get like 90% of what you want, that's a win, dude. If you can get agreement on like 90% of the things, that is an absolute win. So I got to give it up for Tracy, man. I ragged on Tracy a little bit in the beginning. I am won over at the end. If I were to bet money in private, Tracy's a DeSantis voter. I bet she is. Bet she is. 5 kids, lives in Florida. Completely reasonable training, except for like a couple of things that I disagreed with. She's a DeSantis voter. I'm calling it right now. All right, guys, that's all we have for happy hour today. Now, I am thinking about, though I'm not fully committed to this idea, but I am thinking about doing an extended stream on my main channel tomorrow where I do school investigation. And so it might be like a several hour long stream where I'm just digging into like what the schools are doing and doing the investigation live on the channel. That's going to be on my main channel, youtube.com/Dr. Karlyn Borysenko. The link should be down in the description somewhere. If you're watching on Odyssey or Rockfin or Rumble, if I stream it to those platforms, it'll be on the same channel. If I don't stream it, it'll be uploaded later. So I am thinking about doing an extended stream tomorrow to investigate some uber woke school districts. If you want to come and play along with that, you are more than welcome, because I'm trying to raise awareness and generate support for this here Indiegogo campaign, which has now lasted 24 hours. I lasted longer on Indiegogo than I did on Kickstarter. We're still going on Indiegogo. We are past the 1/3 mark within 1 day of starting the campaign. And guys, I am trying to raise money to train 10,000 parents how to look into the schools. I will teach them exactly how to do what I do. I will teach them how to read documents. I will teach them how to hunt down rogue teachers on social media. We will do live activities. We will do all sorts of other stuff. If you would like to support my campaign, please go to activelyunwoke.com/parents or follow the link pinned to the chat or in the description, wherever you are watching from. I'm trying to raise $10,000 in the next 60 days in order to make this a reality. I'm going to build an online training program that is just to help parents understand what is going on in the public schools. I'm really excited about it. I'm thrilled about the support that I have received so far. I have not been booted off of Indiegogo yet, which tells me that I probably am going to be safe. I hope I am. I like Indiegogo. I do. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong with this campaign. I'm just teaching parents how to navigate school websites. And so that's all it is. And so if you have not yet donated to the campaign, I would love your support today. There are all sorts of amazing perks, to include, of course, first access to the program, to include autographed copies of my book, to include personal one-on-one calls with me, to include me looking into your school for you if you don't have time to do it. And I will even knit you a customized hand-knitted shawl. And we'll pick out the yarns together and we'll pick out the pattern together, and I will knit you something beautiful that you are the only person in the world who has that particular thing. All of that is available in my Indiegogo campaign now. You can find that at unwokearmy.com/parents. And please support it, guys. I'm really looking forward to it. And as an extra bonus, anyone who supports the campaign If you are not a member of my locals or my Patreon, you will get access to my supporter Discord, where we are going to be having movie night on Sunday. We're going to be watching Soylent Green. I'm really excited about it. It's a great movie if you've never seen it. So either you need to join my locals, you need to join my Patreon, or you need to join my Indiegogo campaign. And all of those three things are going to get you access to the supporter Discord in time for movie night on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. All right, guys, I'm going to head out for right now. I'm going to go hang out with my husband. By the way, it's Victor's birthday tomorrow. So make sure you send happy thoughts and vibes to my husband. I gave him his birthday presents today. He got a gold calculator watch and a cleaning kit for his gun that was in the case that has the shape of a bullet. The case also kind of looks like a dick, if I'm honest about it, but it's intended to be in the shape of a bullet. And so I'm going to go hang out with Victor. Please send him your happy birthday wishes and good vibes tonight. I appreciate it, guys. We will see you tomorrow sometime for a stream, probably to dig into the schools. And until then, have a great rest of your night, and we will see you soon.